Imagine you are standing beside a stream of water flowing gently through stone channels, built nearly 2,000 years ago, and somehow it is still moving exactly as it was designed to. You arrive quietly, not in a desert this time, but beside a long, ancient line of stone. The air is cool, soft with the gentle light of early morning, or perhaps the fading calm of evening. It is hard to tell, because here, time feels different. In front of you, stretching across the landscape, stands an aqueduct, arches rising one after another, like a slow, repeating pattern, steady, balanced, unhurried, and beneath it, or sometimes hidden within it, water flows. You can hear it if you listen closely. Not loud, not rushing, just a soft, continuous movement, gliding through stone channels, as it has for centuries. The sound is almost like breathing, in and out, a quiet rhythm that does not stop. You follow the path of the water, watching as it moves without effort, guided gently along its course. There are no machines here, no engines, no pumps, no electricity humming beneath the surface. And yet, the water keeps moving, steady, reliable, uninterrupted, even after nearly 2,000 years. You pause for a moment, letting that idea settle, because in the modern world, we are used to systems that depend on energy. Something must push, something must power, something must drive the flow forward. But here, there is nothing forcing the water to move, and still it does. The question begins to form, softly, without urgency. How is this possible? How did people, so long ago, with tools far simpler than our own, create something that continues to work? Long after they are gone, you take a slow breath and notice how the sound of the water seems to quiet your thoughts. It does not rush. It does not demand attention. It simply continues. And perhaps that is where we begin. Not by searching for a quick answer, but by following the flow. Because the story of these ancient water systems is not just about engineering. It is about balance, about understanding how to guide something without forcing it, about working with nature instead of against it. And as you continue to listen, you may begin to feel your thoughts moving in the same way, slowing, softening, finding their own gentle rhythm, like water moving through stone. So there is no need to hurry, no need to understand everything at once. Just let the story carry you, the way the aqueduct carries the water, quietly, steadily, without effort. And if you find this calm flow comforting, you can gently like the video or subscribe, so there will always be another quiet place to return to, whenever your mind needs to slow down. For now, just listen to the water, to the silence between each thought, and let the journey begin. You remain beside the aqueduct, listening. The sound of water continues, soft, steady, uninterrupted. It does not surge, it does not struggle, it simply flows. And the longer you listen, the more unusual that begins to feel. Because in the world you are used to, water rarely moves on its own. It is pushed, pumped through pipes, driven upward against gravity, controlled by systems you cannot see. If the power stops, the water stops. But here, there is no power, no hidden machinery beneath the stone. And yet, the water continues. It has continued for centuries. You follow its path with your eyes. It moves through a narrow channel, carefully shaped, just wide enough, just deep enough, guided by something you cannot immediately see. There is no force behind it, no visible push. And yet, it never stands still. This is where the quiet simplicity begins to reveal itself, because the movement of this water is not created by force, it is created by direction. The aqueduct does not make the water move, it allows the water to move. There is a difference, a subtle one, but important. You step closer, imagining the path stretching far beyond what you can see. The water begins somewhere higher, perhaps in distant hills, or near a quiet spring, or a source hidden deep within the landscape. From that higher place, it begins to descend, not quickly, not all at once, but gently, following the natural pull of gravity. This is the only force at work here. Gravity, always present, always consistent, never in a hurry. It does not need to be turned on. It does not require maintenance. It simply exists. And the Romans understood this, not as a theory written in equations, but as something observed, something felt. They saw how water moves downhill, how it seeks the lowest point, how it flows when given a path. And instead of resisting that movement, they shaped it, they guided it, they created channels that followed a very gentle slope, so slight that it is almost invisible to the eye, but enough to keep the water moving, always moving. You pause again, letting that idea settle, because what feels extraordinary is not complexity, it is restraint. The system does not try to control everything. It does not force the water into unnatural behavior. It simply creates the right conditions and then allows nature to do the rest. You can imagine the beginning of that journey, high in the hills where the water first emerges, clear, cool, untouched. It begins to move, almost without effort, drawn gently downward, and then it enters the system. The aqueduct receives it, not with pressure, but with alignment, a channel that matches its direction, a path that continues its natural descent. From there, the water flows, across valleys, over land, through stone structures that lift it across distances, without ever breaking its downward path. It may rise above the ground, carried by arches, but the water itself is always descending, always moving, from higher ground to lower ground. And because of this, it never needs to be pushed. It only needs to be guided. There is something deeply calming in that idea. That movement does not always require force. That sometimes the most effective systems are the ones that work with what already exists. You listen again to the water. Its rhythm does not change. There is no acceleration, no sudden stop, no variation that demands attention, just a quiet continuity. And over time, that continuity becomes something powerful because it does not stop, not at night, not in silence, not when no one is watching. It continues, and that is what allowed entire cities to depend on it, to build their lives around it. Fountains flowing, baths filled, homes supplied, all from a system that does not rely on constant intervention, only on design, on understanding, on the quiet decision to let gravity do its work. You begin to realize that what seems simple is often the result of deep observation. The Romans did not need to invent a new force. They only needed to recognize the one that was already there, and then to respect it, to work with it, to build around it, instead of against it. And perhaps that is why it still works, because nothing in this system is fighting nature. Nothing is being forced to behave differently. The water flows as it always has. The earth slopes as it always has. And the aqueduct simply connects the two. You let your thoughts slow again, matching the pace of the water. There is no rush here, no urgency, only movement that continues without effort. And as that movement becomes familiar, almost soothing, another question begins to form. Because if the water flows only by following the slope, then the path itself must be perfect, carefully measured, carefully shaped, so gentle that you can barely see it, and yet precise enough to guide the water for miles. You lift your gaze, following the path of the water upward, and now you begin to see the structure itself. From a distance, it looks almost simple, a line of arches, repeating across the landscape, one after another, rising and falling in a quiet rhythm. Stone, curve, stone, curve. It feels almost decorative, as if it were placed there for beauty alone. And in a way, it is beautiful, balanced, proportional, calm. But as you look a little closer, the simplicity begins to shift. Because this is not just a structure, it is a pathway, a bridge, not for people, but for water. The arches support something above them, something you cannot always see from where you stand. A narrow channel, running along the top, hidden in plain sight. And inside that channel, the water flows, quietly, steadily, uninterrupted. You can imagine standing beneath the arches, looking up. The stone above you feels solid, unchanging, almost eternal. And yet, just beyond that stone, water is moving, softly, without sound, without effort, carried across distances, as if the structure itself were guiding it gently forward. From far away, the aqueduct appears uniform, even, predictable. But that is where its quiet genius lies, because what appears simple is often carefully calculated. Each arch, each stone, each segment of the structure has a purpose. The arches are not only aesthetic, they distribute weight. They allow the structure to remain stable, even across uneven ground. Instead of building a solid wall, which would require more material, more effort, the Romans used space, open arches, supporting the channel above, while reducing the overall load. It is efficient, elegant, and strong, but the most important element remains almost invisible. The channel itself, a narrow path, carefully shaped, sealed, and aligned. Inside it, the water must continue its journey, without interruption, which means the surface must be smooth enough to allow flow. The sides must be strong enough to contain it, and the entire length must follow a precise slope, not too steep, not too flat, just enough to keep the water moving. You begin to realize that what looks like a simple line across the land is actually a continuous calculation, maintained, not through machines, but through careful design, the aqueduct crosses valleys, rises above ground, returns to earth, disappears, then reappears again, adapting to the terrain while maintaining its internal consistency. The water inside never loses its direction. Even when the structure seems to rise, the channel itself is always descending, almost imperceptibly, and that is what makes it work. Not force, not pressure, but alignment. You can imagine the builders standing along this path, measuring, adjusting, refining, ensuring that every section connects, not just physically, but precisely, because even a small mistake over long distances could stop the flow, and yet they succeeded, over miles, across landscapes, without modern instruments, only with observation and patience. You look again at the arches. They feel steady, grounded, almost at rest, and perhaps that is what makes them so calming to observe. There is no tension in their form, no strain, only balance. Each arch supporting the next, each stone resting where it belongs. And above it all, the water continues, unseen, but always present. You begin to understand that the genius of the aqueduct is not in making something complicated. It is in making something that appears simple, while holding within it a quiet precision, a structure that does not draw attention to its complexity, a system that works without needing to be noticed. And perhaps that is why it has lasted so long, because nothing within it is excessive, nothing is forced, everything is aligned with what it needs to do. You let your eyes follow the arches once more as they fade gently into the distance, repeating, steady, unchanging, and above them, the water flows, still, always, and as that steady movement settles into your awareness, another layer begins to reveal itself, because if the entire system depends on slope, then that slope must be nearly perfect. You remain beneath the arches, your eyes following the invisible path above, and now your attention shifts to something you cannot quite see. The slope, not a steep descent, not a dramatic drop, but something far more subtle, a gentle tilt, so slight that it almost disappears into the horizon. And yet, this quiet angle is everything, because the water does not move by force, it moves by balance. Too steep, and the water would rush. It would gain speed, become unstable, erode the channel, lose control. Too flat, and the water would hesitate, slow, pull, and eventually stop. So the Romans found something in between, a slope so small that over long distances it becomes almost invisible, and yet precise enough to keep the water moving without interruption. You pause with that idea, because what they created is not obvious. It does not reveal itself at a glance. You could stand beside an aqueduct and never notice it. The structure may rise and fall across the land, but inside, the channel is always descending, always moving downward, even when your eyes tell you otherwise. This is where the quiet science begins to feel almost like magic, because over a distance of many kilometers, the drop in height might be only a few meters. A change so small, spread across such a long path, that it becomes almost imperceptible. And yet, that is enough to keep the water flowing Hour after hour, day after day, year after year, you imagine the builders standing along this invisible line, measuring, not with modern tools, but with observation, watching how water behaves, testing small channels, adjusting the slope again and again until the movement feels right. Not too fast, not too slow, just steady, like breathing. There is something deeply calming in that balance, because it does not rely on correction. It does not need to be constantly adjusted. Once the slope is right, the system maintains itself. The water finds its path and continues. You listen again to the sound of flow. It has not changed. No surges, no pauses, just continuity. And that continuity comes from precision. Not extreme precision, but careful enough, consistent enough, maintained over distance, without deviation. You begin to realize that the challenge was not building a structure. It was maintaining a relationship between height, distance, and movement. A quiet equation, solved not on paper, but through experience, through time, through patience. You imagine placing a drop of water at the beginning of the system, high in the hills. It begins to move, slowly, almost hesitant, but it continues. It does not need encouragement. It does not need to be pushed. It simply follows the path, and hours later, perhaps even days later, it arrives, carried entirely by that gentle slope. You take a slow breath and notice how similar it feels to the movement of your own thoughts. When the mind is rushed, everything feels chaotic, too fast, too much. When it is too still, it becomes stuck, heavy, unmoving. But when it finds the right pace, something changes. Thoughts begin to flow, naturally, without effort, not forced, not held back, just guided, gently, in the right direction. And perhaps that is what the Romans understood. Not just how to build, but how to guide, how to create conditions where movement happens on its own. You look once more at the aqueduct. From the outside, it still appears simple, a line of arches, stone resting on stone. But inside, there is something far more delicate, a balance so precise that it allows the system to continue long after its builders are gone. And that is what makes it feel almost impossible, not because it is complex, but because it is quiet, subtle, hidden in plain sight. You let your thoughts settle again, matching the gentle pace of the water. There is no rush, no need to measure, only the steady awareness of something moving exactly as it should. And as that calm begins to deepen, another layer of the story begins to unfold. Because even with the perfect slope, even with careful design, the system still depends on something else, the material itself, the stone, and how it was shaped to hold the flow. For a moment, let your attention drift downward again, away from the flowing water, away from the invisible slope, and toward the structure itself, the stone, because beneath everything we have followed, the movement, the balance, the quiet precision of the slope, there is something more solid, something that holds it all together. Material. You stand beside one of the aqueduct's pillars, close enough now to see the surface in detail. It is not perfectly smooth, not polished in the way modern structures often are. Instead, it carries texture, subtle variations in color, small irregularities, the quiet marks of time, and yet it feels strong, grounded, unmoved by centuries of wind, of water, of change. You reach out in your imagination and trace your hand along the surface. It is cool, dense, steady, and beneath that surface, there is more than just stone. Because what the Romans built was not simply stacked rock. It was a system of materials working together. Stone for strength, mortar for connection, and something else, something that feels almost ahead of its time. Concrete, not the kind we know today, mixed in machines and poured into molds, but an earlier form, known now as opus caementicium, Roman concrete. You can imagine the process. Fragments of stone, combined with lime and a special kind of volcanic ash, mixed carefully with water until it forms something new, a material that does not simply sit between stones, but binds them, fills the gaps, creates continuity, and over time hardens, not quickly, not instantly, but gradually. Like everything else in this system, the remarkable thing is not just that they used concrete, it is how well it has endured. Even now, after nearly 2,000 years, many Roman structures still stand, their surfaces weathered, their edges softened, but their core intact. There is something deeply calming in that kind of durability, because it suggests that what was built was not temporary, not rushed, not designed for a short life, but created with the expectation that it would remain, that it would continue to serve long after its builders were gone. You look again at the aqueduct and begin to see it differently, not as a collection of parts, but as a unified whole, each stone placed with intention, each joint sealed, each layer supporting the next. And within the channel itself, there is another layer of precision, because water must be contained. It cannot leak, it cannot seep into the structure or weaken it over time. And so, the Romans developed ways to make their channels waterproof. They lined them, sealed them, using materials that could resist the constant presence of water. You can imagine a thin layer applied carefully along the inside of the channel, smoothed by hand, checked, refined, until it forms a surface that allows water to glide without escaping. Not perfect, but effective. And over time, that effectiveness becomes something lasting. Because when a system is well designed, it does not need constant repair. It continues. Quietly, you begin to realize that durability is not just about strength. It is about compatibility. The materials work with each other. The stone supports. The mortar connects. The concrete binds. And together, they create something stable. Something that does not fight itself. You take a slow breath and let that idea settle. Because in the modern world, we often build with speed in mind. Efficiency, output, materials chosen for how quickly they can be used, how easily they can be replaced. But here, the approach is different. The focus is not on how fast something can be built, but on how long it can last. And that changes everything. It changes how carefully each stone is placed, how thoroughly each surface is prepared, how patiently each layer is allowed to set. Time, once again, becomes part of the process. The concrete is not forced to harden. It is allowed. given space, given time to become what it needs to be. And as it does, it strengthens, quietly, without attention, without urgency. You can imagine the builders not rushing to finish, but waiting, observing, returning, only when the material is ready, and then continuing, layer by layer, section by section, until the structure begins to take shape. There is no single moment when it becomes complete, only a gradual accumulation of careful decisions. And perhaps that is what gives it its strength, not just the materials themselves, but the way they were used, with intention, with patience, with an understanding that what is built slowly often endures. You look again at the arches. They do not feel fragile. They do not feel temporary. They feel settled, as if they have always been here. And perhaps that is part of their quiet beauty. They do not demand attention. They do not announce their strength. They simply remain. And in that stillness, they continue to support the flow of water above them, unseen, unnoticed, but always present. You begin to notice something else. The absence of excess. There is nothing unnecessary in the structure. No decoration that serves no purpose. No material used without reason. Everything is there because it needs to be, because it contributes to the balance of the whole, and that simplicity is what allows it to endure, because complexity often creates points of failure, but simplicity, when done with care, creates stability. You let your thoughts slow again, matching the quiet strength of the stone. There is no rush here, no urgency, only the steady presence of something built to last. And as that presence settles into your awareness, you begin to understand that the aqueduct is not just a system for moving water. It is a reflection of how something can be built to remain through time, through change, through everything that passes around it. And still, the water flows, guided by stone, held by materials, shaped by hands that are no longer here, and yet their work continues. You take one last quiet look at the structure, feeling its stillness, its weight, its quiet endurance, and as that feeling deepens, another layer begins to emerge, because the aqueduct does not end here. The water does not stop. It continues, moving forward into something larger, a system that reaches beyond the structure itself, into the life of a city. For a while, you have been following the water as it moves quietly through stone, from distant hills, along a gentle slope, across arches, and through carefully shaped channels. But now, the path begins to change, because the aqueduct is not the destination. It is only the beginning. The water continues, moving forward, guided still by gravity, but now entering something more complex. A network, a system, something that begins to feel almost alive. You imagine the water arriving at the edge of a Roman city. It does not rush in all at once. It does not flood. Instead, it is received, collected, directed, divided, with quiet precision. From a distance, the city appears still. Stone buildings, open spaces, narrow streets. But beneath that stillness, something is always moving. Water, flowing through hidden paths, branching outward, reaching places you cannot see. It is not random. It is organized, like veins, spreading through a body, carrying something essential, something that must reach every part to keep the whole alive. The Romans did not simply bring water to the city, they guided it through it. You can imagine a central point where the aqueduct delivers its flow, a reservoir, a basin, a place where water gathers, briefly, before continuing. From there, the system begins to branch, channels leading in different directions, some wide, some narrow, each one designed to carry water to a specific place. Public fountains, bathhouses, private homes, gardens, each destination receiving its share, not by force, not by pressure, but by design. The height of the reservoir determines the flow. Water moves from higher points to lower ones, just as it always has. Gravity continues its quiet work, and the city adapts around it. You can imagine standing beside a fountain, water rising gently, then spilling over, not pumped, not forced upward, but lifted by the simple fact that its source is higher than where it stands now. It feels almost effortless, and perhaps that is why it feels so calming to observe. There is no struggle, no tension, only movement, continuous and balanced. You begin to see the city differently, not just as buildings and streets, but as a living system, one that depends on flow. Without water, everything would stop. But with it, life continues, quietly, naturally. You follow the imagined path again. From the fountain, water spills into drains, channels beneath the ground, carrying it away, making space for new flow. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is stagnant. Everything moves. You begin to notice that this movement is not chaotic. It is rhythmic, predictable, like breathing. Water arrives. Water is used. Water continues. Always cycling, always renewing. And this cycle creates stability, because nothing remains in one place for too long. There is no build-up, no pressure, only flow. You take a slow breath and notice how similar it feels to the rhythm of your own body. Breathing in, receiving, breathing out, releasing. A system that sustains itself through movement, not through force. The Romans seem to understand this, not in abstract terms, but through observation. They saw how water behaves, how it moves, how it distributes itself when given the right path, and instead of interrupting that behavior, they worked with it. They created systems that allowed water to act as it naturally would, guided, contained, but not controlled. There is a quiet respect in that approach, an understanding that the most reliable systems are the ones that do not fight what they depend on. You imagine the city at different times of day. Morning, water flowing into homes, filling basins, supporting daily routines. Midday, fountains active, public spaces alive, with movement, with sound. Evening, the flow continues, unchanged, uninterrupted. The system does not sleep, it does not pause, it simply continues. And because of that, the city can rest. There is something deeply calming in that idea, that beneath the surface, something is always working, quietly, reliably, without needing attention. You let your thoughts follow that feeling, a sense of continuity, of quiet support, of something that holds everything together without being seen. The aqueduct, the channels, the reservoirs, they are not separate parts. They are connected, each one depending on the other, each one contributing to the whole. And together, they create something that feels almost organic, not because it is alive, but because it behaves like something that is responsive, balanced, continuous. You return your attention once more to the water itself. It has not changed, still moving, still flowing, still following the path laid out for it so long ago, and yet it feels present, alive in this moment, as if time has not interrupted it, only carried it forward. You begin to realize that what the Romans built was not just a structure, not just a system, but a relationship between water and the spaces it moves through, between flow and the life it supports. And that relationship continues. Even now, you take a slow breath and let that awareness settle. There is no need to follow every path, no need to trace every channel, only to feel the steady movement of something that does not stop, something that adapts without breaking, something that supports without being seen. And as that quiet understanding deepens, another question begins to form. Because if such a system continues to flow, if it remains stable, balanced, unchanged over time, then how was it maintained? How did it continue? Without modern tools, without constant intervention? And the answer, like everything else in this story, may be simpler than it first appears. Not dramatic, just a steady presence, always there, always available. Then there are the bathhouses, large, quietly structured spaces where water plays a different role. Here, it is not just for use, it is part of an experience. Warm pools, cool basins, steam rising gently into the air, all sustained by the same system, the same flow. You begin to realize how much coordination this requires. Different parts of the city needing different amounts of water at different times, and yet there are no switches, no digital controls, no automated adjustments, only design, the height of the reservoir, the width of the pipes, the slope of each channel, all working together to create balance. You imagine the water moving through a pipe, hidden beneath the ground, dark, quiet, unseen, and yet essential. It continues its journey, without pause, arriving at a home, filling a basin, then moving on, never staying too long, never stopping, because the system is not designed for storage. It is designed for flow, constant movement, ensuring freshness, preventing stagnation, maintaining clarity. You take a slow breath and notice how that idea feels, that what sustains must continue to move. That stillness, in the wrong place, can lead to imbalance. But movement, guided gently, creates harmony. The Romans understood this. They did not try to hold water in place. They allowed it to pass through, to arrive, to be used, and to continue. Even wastewater, was not ignored. It was guided away, carried through drainage systems, separate from the clean flow, maintaining separation, maintaining order. You begin to see the city not as a collection of structures, but as a network, each part connected through movement, through flow, through something that is always present, but rarely noticed. Water. You imagine the rhythm of daily life. Morning, people gathering at fountains, filling containers, beginning their day. Afternoon, bathhouses active, water warming, cooling, circulating. Evening, the flow continues, unchanged, reliable, always there. And beneath all of this, the system holds, not because it is controlled, but because it is balanced. There is no single point of pressure, no fragile center. Instead, the system distributes itself, spreads the load, allows each part to function without strain. You begin to understand that complexity does not always mean complication. Sometimes it means connection, many simple parts working together, each one doing its role, each one aligned with the whole. And because of that alignment, the system remains stable, even over time, even as the city changes, even as generations come and go. The water continues. You listen again, imagining its quiet presence beneath the surface, always moving, always available, always part of something larger. And there is something comforting in that, because it suggests that stability does not come from control, but from design, from understanding how things move and allowing them to move freely within the right boundaries. You let your thoughts slow again, matching the gentle pace of the system. There is no urgency here, no need to rush, only the quiet awareness of something working exactly as it was intended to. And as that awareness deepens, another question begins to emerge, because even the most balanced systems require care, not constant intervention, but attention, observation, small adjustments over time. So how did they maintain it? How did they keep it flowing? Without modern tools, without machines, only with what they had and what they understood. The answer, like the flow itself, may be simpler than it seems. You follow the flow again, not forward this time, but inward, into the quiet spaces where the system is watched rather than built. Because even something as balanced, as carefully designed, as quietly precise as this, still needs care, not constant fixing, not urgent repair, but attention, the kind that does not interrupt, but observes. You imagine walking along the aqueduct, not as a visitor, but as someone responsible for it. The path is familiar. The arches rise beside you, steady, unchanged, and above them, the water continues. Your task is not to control it, but to notice, to listen, to observe the subtle details that others might miss. A slight change in sound, a variation in flow, a place where water moves just a little differently. This is how the system is maintained, not through machines, but through awareness. The Romans had workers whose role was to inspect the aqueducts, to walk along their length, to check the channels, to ensure that nothing blocked the flow. You can imagine them moving slowly, step by step, following the same path, day after day. There is no rush in their movement, because the system itself does not rush. They stop, occasionally, looking into the channel, watching the water, clear, steady, uninterrupted. If something has entered the path, debris, sediment, anything that might slow the flow, they remove it, gently, without disruption, because the goal is not to change the system, only to keep it aligned. You begin to realize that maintenance here is not about fixing problems after they happen. It is about preventing them by noticing early, by staying close to the system, by understanding how it behaves when everything is working, so that even the smallest change becomes visible. You imagine the interior of the channels, narrow, cool, dark, and yet accessible, because the aqueduct was designed with maintenance in mind, paths for workers, openings, spaces where inspection is possible. This is not accidental. It is part of the system, a quiet acknowledgement that even the most well-designed structures require care. But that care does not need to be complex. It only needs to be consistent. You listen again to the imagined sound of water, still flowing, still steady, and that steadiness is the result of countless small actions, moments of attention, spread across time. No single repair defines the system, only the accumulation of care. You begin to notice something else. There is no urgency in this maintenance, no alarms, no sudden failures, because the system itself is not fragile. It does not depend on a single point. It does not collapse. If one part is slightly imperfect, it continues, resilient, and that resilience reduces the need for intervention. The workers do not fight the system. They support it. They work with it, understanding its rhythms, its patterns, its quiet consistency. You imagine one of them pausing beside a section of the channel, listening, noticing the sound of water as it passes. There is something almost meditative in that act. To listen, not for noise, but for subtle change. To recognize when something feels different, and to respond before it becomes a problem. You take a slow breath and notice how similar this feels to caring for something within yourself, not waiting for imbalance to become overwhelming, but noticing early, adjusting gently, allowing small corrections to maintain stability. The Romans did not rely on advanced tools. They relied on understanding, on presence, on repetition. The same paths walked, again and again, the same observations made, with quiet attention. And over time, that attention becomes knowledge, a deep familiarity with how the system behaves, so that even without instruments, they can sense when something is not quite right. You begin to understand that maintenance is not separate from the system. It is part of it, integrated, expected, designed for. The aqueduct is not something that is built and then forgotten. It is something that continues through interaction, through care, through presence. And because of that, it endures, not perfectly, not without change, but without failure. You let your thoughts slow again, settling into that idea. That stability does not come from perfection, but from attention, from small, consistent actions that keep things aligned. You imagine the system continuing, year after year. Workers walking, water flowing, small adjustments made, quietly, without recognition. And yet, those small actions are what allow everything else to continue. The fountains, the baths, the homes, all supported by something that is rarely seen: maintenance, care, presence. You listen one more time to the steady flow, unchanged, reliable, continuous. And as that quiet rhythm settles into your awareness, another thought begins to emerge. Because even with care, even with attention, the system still depends on something deeper, something that makes it resilient over centuries, something that allows it to continue working, even as the world around it changes. And that may be where the true strength lies. You remain with the sound of water, steady, familiar now, and as you listen, a quiet realization begins to take shape. The system is old, very old. Centuries have passed. Empires have risen and faded. Cities have changed, been rebuilt, transformed, and yet, in some places, the water still flows, not as a memory, not as a reconstruction, but as a continuation. The same paths, the same channels, the same quiet movement, guided by the same principles. You pause with that thought, because in the modern world, things rarely last this long. Systems depend on energy, on maintenance schedules, on parts that wear out and must be replaced. Technology advances, and what once worked quickly becomes obsolete. But here, nothing has become outdated, because nothing was built to depend on change, only on constants. Gravity still pulls, water still flows, stone still holds. These are not things that need updating. They do not require improvement. They simply remain. And because the system is built around them, it remains as well. You begin to see the quiet strength in that simplicity. There are no hidden mechanisms, no internal processes that can fail without warning. Everything is visible, or at least understandable. The path is clear. The movement is natural. The system does not ask the world to behave differently. It adapts to the world as it is, and that is what makes it endure. You imagine standing again beside the aqueduct, centuries after it was built. The stones are weathered, edges softened by time, colours faded into tones of earth and sky, and yet the structure stands, not perfect, but stable, because it was never designed for perfection, only for function, only for continuity. You listen again to the water. It does not sound old. It does not carry the weight of time. It simply flows, as it always has. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part, that the system does not age in the way we expect, because it does not depend on fragile components. It does not rely on precision that can drift. It is forgiving, flexible, within its boundaries. If a small part shifts, the system continues. If a surface wears, the flow adapts. Nothing stops. Nothing collapses, because nothing is pushed beyond what it can sustain. You take a slow breath and let that idea settle. That durability is not about resisting change. It is about allowing it, in small ways, gradual ways that do not disrupt. The whole, the Romans did not build for speed. They did not build for immediate results. They built for continuity, for a system that could exist without constant intervention. And that required a different way of thinking, not asking, how can we make this faster? But instead, how can we make this last? You begin to realize how rare that question has become in a world that moves quickly, that values efficiency, that replaces rather than repairs. Simplicity can feel almost unfamiliar, and yet it is often the simplest systems that endure the longest because they depend on what does not change. You look once more at the aqueduct. It does not try to do everything. It does not serve multiple purposes. It has one function: to guide water from one place to another. And it does that with quiet consistency. Nothing more, nothing less. And perhaps that clarity is what gives it strength. You let your thoughts slow again, matching the steady flow. There is no urgency here, no need to improve, only the quiet recognition of something that works, because it aligns with what is already true. Water flows downhill. Gravity does not stop. Stone can endure when it is used with care. These are simple truths, and yet, when combined, they create something extraordinary. A system that continues, not because it is maintained by technology, but because it does not need to be. You listen once more to the water, still moving, still steady, still present. And as that gentle rhythm settles deeper, another thought begins to form. Because beyond durability, beyond simplicity, there is something else at work here. Something less tangible. Something that connects the flow of water with the passage of time itself. And perhaps that is where the story leads next. For a moment, let everything become quieter. The arches, the stone, the distant city, all of it fades gently into the background. And what remains is the sound. Water, still moving, still flowing, still continuing, without pause. You listen, not to understand it, but simply to notice it, because there is something familiar in this movement, something that feels closer than the structure itself. The water does not stop, not at night, not in silence, not when no one is watching. It continues, and as you follow that thought, it begins to feel like something else. Time, moving in the same way, quietly, steadily, without interruption. You cannot see it, you cannot hold it, and yet you can feel it passing, just like the water, always moving forward, never returning, never pausing. You imagine a single drop entering the aqueduct, high in the hills. It begins its journey, slowly, almost without effort, and then it continues, through the channel, across the arches, into the city. Eventually, it passes through and moves on, disappearing into something beyond your view. And in that journey, it never stops being water. It does not hesitate. It does not question. It simply follows the path laid out before it. You take a slow breath and notice how similar that feels to the movement of your own thoughts. Moments passing, one after another, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always moving. You cannot hold on to a single moment. Just as the aqueduct cannot hold the water, it is not designed for that. It is designed for flow, for continuation, and perhaps that is what makes it feel so calming, because nothing is being forced to stay. Nothing is being held in place. Everything is allowed to move. You listen again to the steady rhythm. There is no urgency in it, no sense of rushing, even though it never stops. And that is the quiet paradox. Something can move continuously without feeling hurried. It can progress without pressure because the pace is gentle, consistent, balanced. You begin to realize that time does not rush. It only feels that way when we try to move faster than it. But when you match its rhythm, when you slow and allow moments to pass as they are, something changes. The movement becomes almost soothing, like the water, always there, always flowing, but never overwhelming. You imagine the aqueduct again, not as a structure, but as a timeline, each section representing a moment, each drop of water passing through without stopping, centuries of movement, day after day, night after night, unbroken, and yet no single moment remains, only the flow. You take another slow breath and notice how your thoughts begin to follow that pattern. Less resistance, less urgency, more space between each one. They arrive and then they pass, just like the water. And in that passing, there is a kind of quiet release, because nothing needs to be held, nothing needs to be controlled. Everything is part of the movement. You begin to understand that what the Romans built was not only a system for water, it was a system that moves with time, that continues without needing to be restarted, without needing to be pushed forward. It simply exists within the flow, and that is why it feels timeless. Not because it resists time, but because it moves with it. You listen again to the sound, still the same, unchanged, and yet each moment of listening is different because time has moved, and you have moved with it. There is something deeply calming in that awareness that you do not need to stop time to find rest. You only need to move with it at the right pace, like the water, not rushing ahead, not falling behind, just flowing. You let that idea settle gently. There is no need to hold on to it. It can pass just like everything else. And as it does, you notice how quiet everything feels, how steady, how continuous. The aqueduct still stands, the water still flows, time still moves, and all of it exists together, without conflict, without urgency, only presence. You take one more slow breath and allow your thoughts to follow the same path, to move, to pass, to continue, without resistance. And as that gentle rhythm deepens, another thought begins to emerge. Because even as the system continues, even as the water flows, and time moves forward, there are still things we do not fully understand, details that remain just beyond clarity. And perhaps that is not something to resolve, but something to quietly accept. For a while, you have been following the water, from distant hills, through quiet stone channels, into the life of a city, and across the slow passage of time. And now you pause, not to search for something new, but to reflect on what is already there. Because the aqueduct is more than a structure. It is a way of thinking, a quiet expression of how something can be built to work without struggle. You look again at the system. In your mind, no electricity, no engines, no complex control systems. And yet, it functions. Not only functions, but continues. For centuries, you compare that to the systems you know, the ones that surround you now, powered, connected, fast, responsive, and yet often fragile, dependent on energy, on constant input, on layers of complexity that must all remain intact for the system to work. If one part fails, everything can stop. You pause with that contrast, because it is not about which is better, it is about how they are built. The Roman system does not try to do everything. It does one thing, and it does it well. It moves water from one place to another. That clarity removes unnecessary complexity. There are no extra layers, no features that add more than they support, only what is needed. And because of that, the system remains stable. You begin to realize that simplicity is not the absence of intelligence. It is the result of understanding, of knowing what matters and what does not. The Romans observed. They watched how water moves, how it flows downhill, how it behaves when left undisturbed, and instead of trying to improve it, they aligned with it. They built around it. They created a system that works with nature rather than against it. You take a slow breath and notice how different that feels, because in the modern world, we often try to control, to optimize, to push systems, to perform beyond their natural limits. And sometimes that creates strength, but sometimes it creates fragility. Systems that depend on constant correction, constant energy, constant attention. The aqueduct does not need that. It does not need to be adjusted every moment. It does not need to be monitored continuously. It was built to sustain itself within the boundaries of its design. You begin to see that the lesson is not about rejecting complexity, but about understanding when it is needed and when it is not, because complexity can solve problems, but it can also create them. And simplicity, when guided by deep understanding, I can create something that lasts. You imagine building something today, a system, a process, something that must continue. Over time, the question shifts. Not, how can this be faster? Not, how can this be more advanced? But something quieter. How can this work? With as little resistance as possible? How can this continue? Even when no one is watching, you let those questions settle. There is no need to answer them, only to notice them. Because sometimes the value is not in solving, but in seeing. The aqueduct does not offer a single lesson. It offers a perspective, a reminder that not everything needs to be forced, that not everything needs to be accelerated, that sometimes the most effective systems are the ones that move slowly, quietly, consistently. You listen again to the imagined sound of water, still flowing, still steady, still present, and it begins to feel less like something external and more like something familiar, a rhythm, a pattern, something that can exist without effort. You take another slow breath and notice how your thoughts have softened, slowed. There is less urgency now, less need to resolve everything, and perhaps that is part of what we can learn, not only from the structure, but from the way it exists. It does not rush, it does not compete, it does not try to be more than what it needs to be, and because of that, it endures. You let your attention drift, one last time, across the arches, across the water, across the quiet system that continues without demand. And as everything begins to settle, there is only one thing left, not a question, not an explanation, but a quiet return to stillness, to the sound of water beneath the night sky, where everything continues gently, without effort, and you can simply rest. Now, let everything soften. The structures, the stone, the distant city, all of it begins to fade gently into the background, and what remains is the sound. Water, still flowing, still steady, still present. You return to where you began, beside the quiet channel, where the water moves without effort. The air is calm now, the sky above, deep and still, and the aqueduct stands, as it always has, unmoving, unhurried, at rest, even as the water continues. You listen closely. The sound is soft, almost like a whisper, a gentle rhythm that does not change. And as you listen, your breathing begins to follow, slow and easy. In, like the water arriving. Out, like the water continuing. No force, no effort, just a quiet flow. You do not need to think anymore. You do not need to understand. Everything you have followed, the movement, the structure, the balance, can simply drift away now, like water, moving beyond your sight. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to solve, only the steady rhythm of something that continues, without asking anything from you. You take another slow breath and feel your body becoming heavier, more relaxed, more still. The thoughts that once moved quickly now begin to slow, spreading out, softening, like water finding its path. Without resistance, you are not trying to sleep. There is no need to force it. You are simply resting in the flow, letting each breath carry you a little further, a little deeper. The sound of water remains, quiet, consistent, almost distant now, and somewhere beneath the same sky, the aqueduct still stands. The water still flows, unchanged, uninterrupted, carrying its quiet rhythm through time. And as you rest tonight, you can let that rhythm become your own. Slow, steady, effortless, drifting gently into sleep. Sleep well, and now the soft ambient sound of water will continue to flow, guiding you deeper into rest.